there's no right or wrong way to record music or guitars or anything like that. Everybody can do their own thing. But one of the things in my experience over the years, I've found that using different guitars always makes you do different things. So if you're looking for like a different vibe, or you're looking to be creative, guitars oftentimes make you play the only things they can play. Certain things you can't play on certain guitars. Not because of your ability, just because they just don't sound right. You could play something on one guitar and it sounds great, but you try it on another type of guitar and it just isn't right. It just doesn't, it doesn't have the same effect. And so the guitars I use, I like to use different guitars and, challenge myself on trying to make them, work on various things. A couple of things with my acoustics. I've got two acoustic guitars that I use. One is my old Taylor from years and years ago, which is the pretty much my, I've retired it from touring now because it's so old, it'll get beat up. But it's a wonderful, warm sounding acoustic guitar. And the other one is what is known as Grace Guitars, which was made by my friends Tom Gurner and Tracy Greiger up in Plattsburgh. Tom's a real artist in his own way. He's actually, he does dental work, but he also, looks after bees, and he's also, he has, he's just a real artistic guy. Builds stone walls. He does, there's all sorts of stuff. He's one of them like artsy guys. He's real artistic slant to his nature. And so they set about, building guitars, and they made this guitar for me that is absolutely stunning. Really, really, really amazing guitar. And the good thing about it is it complements my Taylor. It's a different tone, but if I wanted to do, like, say, if I wanted to play chords on the Taylor, I can put the lead on the Grace Guitar one, because it's just, it has that about it. And one of the things about recording acoustic guitars that, this is one way to think about it. This isn't the only way, again. But I never record my guitars with the mics close to the guitar, because people don't listen to it like that. Like, you don't, if you play somebody an acoustic guitar, you don't ram the sound hole in their ear and go, here, listen to this. Like, you stand back, you're like 3 or 4 feet away. So put the mic 3 or 4 feet away. Record the things, the hi-hat isn't, when you record a hi-hat, it isn't going, it's it's where it is, so don't record it at 10, record it, it doesn't need to do that. It's not doing that. There's a correlation between how loud you're recording things and what you're recording and where you're recording things and where the mic placement is on things that, correlates to how it isn't, like how you listen to it. So to record an acoustic guitar, I often hear people record them. I can tell they've got once you put the microphone right next to the acoustic guitar, then you've got all them bass frequencies to deal with. You've got all that stuff. You have to deal with all that. And then you have to start EQing the stuff just put the fucking mic further back and listen to it from where somebody would listen to your acoustic guitar. And you don't have to deal with them frequencies. You don't have to EQ it. There's no EQ on the guitars at all on this album. They sound all right. They sound great to me. And so the microphones I used on the electric guitars on the album is also really important. I mean, I use an SM57, which is pretty bog standard, but I wouldn't go near one after 1980, because much like software plugins, they do that little drawing and save like an orange amp on a software instrument, and it doesn't sound anything like an orange amp. It just doesn't. The drawing's the same. And, this is a Marshall, this is a Vox. It isn't. It actually isn't. It sounds nothing like it. It's okay if you're doing demos or you're messing around like that. They don't sound like it. They actually don't. And so you need to move air when you're recording electric guitars in some shape or form, because the software amps, they're really convenient and they're great and all that, but they're just, at the end of the day, it's like a bit of fuzz. And, it doesn't sound like a real guitar to me. And so the microphone, I wouldn't use a microphone after 1980, because once China starts kicking in and the Chinese components start coming in, all the amplifiers, all the fucking microphones, everything has got different parts in them now, all based upon the fact that they're all dressed up like, say, orange amps in a nice orange box. So it looks like an orange amp from an orange box, but it inferior components in the system. Marshalls, all of them, they're all the same. The one thing I found that didn't, and was the Laney Lionheart amps. They were the ones that I found they still sound like amps. They have a quality sound. And I can tell you this because, again, me and Brett A-B'd them against all these new amplifiers that come out. In fact, old ones as well. The Laney Lionheart, if you're looking for a quality, straightforward, clean signal, the Laney Lionheart is about as good as you'll get, like right now for me. It's 20 or 30 watts or something like that, so it's not like a huge, maybe not for metal guys, I don't know what you guys use, but in terms of just like a quality sound, the Laney Lionheart doesn't have any cheap Chinese components in it, and it sounds really good. I don't know about the other Laney amps that they've got, I don't know what they do, but I spoke to Roger, who runs Laney, and he let me try a few of them out. The Laney Lionheart, hands down, is by far the best quality that is out there. All them other amps that you're buying, the new amps, they've all got that cheap Chinese stuff in it. It's just cheap shit, and it's just not good. It just doesn't sound good. It sounds like the plugins, just like a little fuzz and a buzz. There's no quality to it. It's not a classy sound. It's just like a fuzz, just like some buzz. It's just not good, dude. And so the microphones were the same. You buy new microphones, and a lot of them are absolute shite. I know the difference between an SM57 now and an SM57 from the 80s, which I've got, is radical. Doesn't sound like the same thing. Like it, because I had one. I went out to the shop and bought one, and then I got my friend Phil Beaumont to send me an SM57 over from England, because he had a bunch of them. Radically different. You wouldn't even recognise the sound. In the same place, exactly pointed at the same direction, with the same leads, into the same everything. It's absolutely radically different, and it's nowhere near as good. So you got to be careful with that, with your microphones and stuff like that, because we had to watch out for it, because we're not using EQ or anything like that, or compression. So we had to have a good signal at the source, and so that, that's what I did with that. I also used 2 Brian Monty guitars. Brian Monty's a guitar maker out of Canada. Absolutely fucking brilliant, amazing. Absolutely amazing guitars. You check it out. I'll leave a link on here. Brian's guitars are phenomenal. Like, they really are. They sound amazing. I used my old Strat from a long time ago. If I wanted a Strat sound, I shoved that in. I had a classical guitar that I used on there that I bought for about $5,000 about 20 years ago when I was doing classical guitar lessons, and it's been lying around, just, I didn't really treat it very well, so it's been lying around in like fucking freezing cold garages, just out of the case and all that stuff. But I picked it back up, and I used that on this album. I used the Chord Guitar was good. I used that for my slide. So all the slide on the album is the Chord Guitar, and I used that because I didn't want to mess up any of my other guitars. But I was that bad of a slide player in the beginning that my action had to be about that high, right? Because I couldn't, I've got the action down now, but when I first started off, that's one of the things, to get a decent tone out of it, and I couldn't really get a good tone out of it in the beginning. Not like I can now, after practicing for a couple of years. But the Chord Guitar is actually, it had a unique sound. It works great. I think it sounds great on the album. But that was so the amps, you need to be careful, like what amps you're going to use if you're going to do that. The microphones are the same. The guitars and the acoustic guitars, or anything you do in acoustic, make sure you put it back, and you're recording as far back as you would listen to it. It's the same with vocals. Like, don't start singing vocals on your mic like this, because you're going to get all those those bass tones that you can't get off. Like, get back, get off the mic, get right off it, and then you don't have to deal with any of that stuff. It just sounds incredibly natural. It sounds great. And we had to do that again, because we're not EQing. So we had to move back off the mic to where we want, where we could feel it fit into the song. That was the other tricks. The other things we did is we moved microphones. We recorded in different rooms to get a different sound. So rather than just EQ it, because we weren't using EQ, we'd use a different, the Telefunken pencil mics, which were great. They were really good. We used them for the backing vocals, and we put them one in the in the bathroom, or we used it in the bedroom, or we went into the front room, the big main room in there with the great big 30-foot ceilings. We got some in the basement, close mics. We were doing that as opposed to just sending it in and EQing it. And so without adding any extra sound, like treble and all that stuff we use the ambience of the rooms. I think it's important as well when you start EQing to understand that the world sounds a certain way. Like when I say S, it says S. It's not S. And that's what you're adding on. You're making the world sound different than it is. You're going S, hey, s, and then you keep adding that 20k on the top or the bottom end. The world doesn't sound like that. So we recorded what the world sounds like, as opposed to enhancing all these songs with more treble, more, it's like cocaine. Put more treble on it. Then your ears get used to that, and everything other than that's dull. We just had it be natural. We recorded them. The guitars were natural. We recorded them where some people were listening to them. The backing vocals were all natural sounding. So everything, adds up to a natural sounding record. It's not the only way to record, of course, because there's loads of songs I've done in the past that have got nothing to do with this. But for this record, for the natural sounding thing that we were going for, all these things played a huge part in getting that sound we wanted.